everybody. So I wanted to hop on real quick and do a video all about my 3 weeks that I spent traveling Japan. Japan was amazing, as you know. I've actually made quite a few videos on this channel about it, but just be aware some of the videos done in the summer, the quality isn't quite as good. I finally invested in a mic that I like, and the sound's a lot better than those earlier videos. So just like a bit of a warning if you're going to look those videos up. But anyway, so this past summer, I decided to go to Japan for 3 weeks. I flew all the way from Newark Airport to Tokyo Haneda, which is about 14 hours one way. So I definitely wanted to make the voyage worth it. And also, if you wanted to learn more about the flight that I took over to Haneda, I do have a review about flying premium economy in United. And it was a pretty good plane ride, all things considered, especially because I'm a nervous flyer. But anyway, I just wanted to talk about the cities I went to with 3 weeks in Japan, and hopefully this gives you a bit of an idea of what to do on your trip. Now, just a disclaimer, this was my first trip to Japan, so I really didn't get off the beaten path that much. I'm sure there's a lot of other places that you could potentially go for a first visit to Japan, but I did pretty much stick with the tourist trail, I gotta be honest with you. So just giving you that information up front. And yeah, let's talk about my 3 weeks in Japan. So first and foremost, I landed in Tokyo Haneda. Tokyo actually has 2 airports, but the nice thing about Haneda was it was much closer to my hostel. Tokyo is a ginormous city, which I'm going to talk about in this video, so you want to be aware of what airport you're landing into ahead of time. As I've said, Tokyo is huge. It really is like visiting 7 cities in one. So even though I had 3 weeks in Japan, I still wanted to allocate a substantial amount of time to visiting Tokyo. And I think I spent about 6 or 7 days, close to a week actually, just because there's so much to see and do. That it's really impossible to experience in just a weekend. Now, obviously, if you are more of a countryside person or you want to get into nature, then maybe spend a little less time in Tokyo. But for me, I'm a city gal at heart, and I really wanted to dedicate a lot of time to the city. So that's what I recommend that you do if it's your first trip to Japan, because let's face it, Tokyo is very iconic. It's one of the best cities in the world, and you can truly immerse yourself into Tokyo and every day be a big adventure. I guarantee you will not see the same thing twice. I'll give you an example. I live close to New York City, and Tokyo was just as ginormous or more ginormous. I'm so sorry. That little emoji just distracted me. Tokyo is even more ginormous than New York, and there's even more to do, in my humble opinion, saying this as someone who lives near New York. So believe me, even if you have an entire week, you will not run out of things to do. I can promise you that. Fortunately, even though Tokyo is so big, you do not have to worry about renting a car. If you've even done basic research, then you know that the metro goes absolutely everywhere. Just make sure to have an IC card on your phone so you're not messing around with the ticket machines ahead of time, because that would be a pain in the butt. But really, the public transportation does go everywhere, which is very useful for a big city like Tokyo. It makes all of the areas, even the outskirts and some of the day trips such as Kamakura or Nikko, extremely accessible, which is super cool. So obviously it goes without saying that in Tokyo there's something for every type of traveler. So really it's important to tailor your itinerary to your specific interests. So Tokyo has a ton of iconic sites, but I'm going to be real with you. Even with a week, you're not going to see them all. I know I could spend a month easily in Tokyo and still not see and do everything. It is that incredible of a city. So don't feel guilty if you can't see everything, but to maximize your time, try to cluster your attractions together. I'll give you an example. My hostel was about 50 minutes away from Shinjuku, which is one of the biggest nightlife districts in the city. So in order to visit and get back, especially with the train stopping at a certain hour, I had to plan ahead for that. So keep in mind, even though everything is accessible with public transit, it may not take 5 minutes to get there. It'll probably take quite a bit longer. And furthermore, if you are interested in a specific site, let's say if you really want to go to Team Lab Borderless, make sure to book your tickets ahead because they do sell out, particularly during busy times. As for me, I spent my time in Tokyo as a solo traveler eating all of the food in sight. So I did a food tour. I made sure to stop at a couple places with counter seating. So I felt comfortable as a solo traveler. Although, to be honest, in Japan, solo dining is really very easy. I also love temples and museums. So I made sure I spent a lot of time doing that as well as shopping. But I'm just one person, like I said, and Tokyo does have something for everyone, and you can really tailor the experience for you. But just keep in mind, it's a big city, and don't feel guilty about spending multiple days there. I do want to reiterate that I spent about a week in Tokyo just because there was so much to see and do, and I didn't want to miss anything, even though I obviously did, because it's a big city. Potential day trips. I know I mentioned two of them, Kamakura and Nikko. I only spent a day in Kamakura, but I did spend a whole weekend in Nikko. I also did a video on that as well. But I'm going to talk about both of them because they were really cool, and I totally think they're worth visiting if you have 3 weeks in Japan. Now, if you want to pick one over the other, that's totally up to you. It's your itinerary, but I do think both have something cool to offer. Kamakura is an absolutely stunning beachside town which has a lot of amazing temples and is very well known for the giant Buddha, which I highly recommend that you visit. It took my breath away, and it takes about, depending on where you are in the city, 50 minutes to an hour and a half, so it's very easy as a day trip. I do wish that I had more time to spend overnight because I absolutely fell in love with it, especially because I was there during rainy season when the hydrangeas were in full bloom. Wish I had more time in Kamakura. I absolutely loved it. Just a word of advice though, I went on a Sunday, and with it being hydrangea season and a weekend, it was really super duper crowded. Not that I blame people, of course. It's a really beautiful place, and it's understandable that that's where you would want to spend a Sunday with your family, but just like keep that in mind. If you're going on a weekend, it may be a little bit more crowded, so just, pack your patience when you go. With all that being said, I also want to talk about Nikko because that is another great day trip that you can do from Tokyo. As for me and my own itinerary, I spent an entire weekend, which I think was perfect because Nikko takes a little bit longer to get to, maybe about 2.5 hours. So depending on the type of trip you want to take, you're not going to be able to see everything on your visit there. And Nikko has both gorgeous nature and temples, and it would be a shame to miss out on both. So look into doing an overnight stay there if you're interested in getting out into nature a little bit more and checking out some super cool temples. If you're seeking some spectacular nature on your 3 weeks to Japan, Nikko is a really good place to go, especially if you're going in the fall. I hear the leaves are absolutely incredible, but of course it may be a lot more crowded during that time. I got lucky with rainy season, didn't have too much wet weather, and the UNESCO temples, the mountains, the waterfalls, everything was so vibrant and stunning. And if you're staying overnight, I highly recommend that you get a Nikko pass to take you to all the attractions. What you'll do is you'll show the pass to the bus drivers, and it's kind of like a hop-on, hop-off system that's very efficient and well worth your time, and it's what I did. And I didn't get lost once, and I'm notorious for getting lost, especially traveling by myself. So if I can do it, you can do it, believe me. So after Tokyo, Nikko, Kamakura, I decided that I wanted to go to Kyoto. Of course, the temples are amazing. And how I got there was I took the bullet train from Tokyo Station down to Kyoto, and that was super easy. The bullet trains are very nice, and you can enjoy a lovely bento box during your ride to your next city, and they're super comfortable. So you can either get a JR pass in advance, but I have to warn you, the prices have gone up significantly. So for my own itinerary, I didn't bother. I just got point-to-point tickets. And you can do that right at the train station. Actually, the machines are really easy to do, so you don't necessarily have to buy tickets in advance, especially if your heart isn't set on a certain time. Obviously, though, if you're going during school breaks, such as Golden Week, then you absolutely need to book those tickets in advance because they do sell out. But otherwise, as long as you're going on a bit of an off period, you don't have to worry about buying those tickets in advance. You'll be fine just showing up to the station and buying your tickets there. And the bullet trains, they really are amazing, and it does make traveling from city to city super efficient. And believe me, traveling from Tokyo to Kyoto is a piece of cake, even if you are, like I said, like me and not really good with directions, because I get lost all the time, but even I could handle this, so trust me, you could do it too. For Kyoto, I stayed about 3 days, which was plenty of time to explore all the temples that I wanted to explore, because I wanted to make sure I had substantial time, because if you look at a map of Kyoto, you'll see that the temples are spaced rather far apart, and public transportation doesn't always go everywhere efficiently. Now, I'm not going to judge how the city does public transportation. It's none of my business as an outsider and a tourist, but it's just something to keep in mind when you're planning your itinerary. So if you want to see a lot of the temples but not waste a ton of time on buses, then there's nothing wrong with ordering an Uber. Rideshare apps are everywhere in Japan, and they will call you a taxi, which is super helpful. And it's especially helpful for a city like Kyoto when everything is a bit spread out. This is just a reminder that Kyoto is also experiencing a bit of an over-tourism problem, so please be on your best behavior when you're visiting Kyoto. It's an amazing city. I definitely recommend stopping there if you have 3 weeks in Japan. It has so many UNESCO World Heritage sites and also amazing cultural experiences. For example, I booked myself a private tea ceremony, and it was amazing. It was one of the best experiences that I had in Japan. So when you're there, just please be on your best behavior. Some of the stories coming out of there are insane, like tourists touching kimonos without permission, photographing geisha, who are the performers, and stalking them with cameras without permission. It's just like so over the top. So just use your common sense, mind your manners, and don't be a jerk. Pretty easy, if you ask me. After Kyoto, I took the bullet train again and spent 2 nights in Hiroshima, which is another amazing city that I highly recommend. As an American, I definitely felt like it was important to go to the Peace Park and to go to the memorials to see them. Even though it's very sad, it's incredibly important to be aware of one's history. Not to mention, Hiroshima is a lot of fun in general. I met a lot of really great people there, and it was one of my most favorite stops on my trip in Japan. Of course, by spending 2 days in Hiroshima, I had to spend a day in Miyajima Island, which is one of the most serene, beautiful, incredible places I've ever been in my life. I'm not even exaggerating. Like, I wish I could have a small house there and just stay there and read my books and live peacefully. It is the most wonderful island ever, and I really wish I spent the night because I can just only envision how phenomenal a sunrise and sunset would be on this island. It's truly amazing, and it's very easy to get to from Hiroshima. All you have to do is take the train and then take a ferry, which runs on a pretty regular basis. Once you're on Miyajima, you do not need to take any public transportation anywhere. Everything is really walkable, which is very nice, and you'll just really enjoy the peace. Miyajima has many temples and UNESCO World Heritage sites as well, so definitely don't miss out on that. And do take the time to enjoy the seafood and perhaps enjoy some of the prayer rooms in these temples. I know that I spent a good 20 minutes just enjoying the breeze, and it was perfect. There's really nothing bad that I could say about this island. It's really a treasure on earth. And like I said, if I could live there for a month with my books, enjoy the sunrise, eat seafood, it would be a really wonderful time. So if you have those 3 weeks in Japan, definitely make space for it. You will not regret it. And if anything, I think you'll feel the same way I do. It's truly wonderful, and the people there are wonderful too. Hiroshima, I went to Osaka, which was also really, really cool. And I know I'm going to ruffle a few feathers with this one, but when I was in Osaka, I did not go to Universal Studios. To be honest, as a solo traveler, I'm not really a theme park person. Like, there's a lot that I can do as a solo traveler, but going on rides by myself, it just, I don't know. No judgment. Like, we're all different. And if Universal Studios is a priority for you, whether you're going with friends or by yourself, then more power to you. Just make sure that if you're going to Universal Studios that you book in advance. I know in particular, Nintendo World, I think you need timed admissions to get in. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. I could be completely off base here, but I think Nintendo World requires timed tickets. So if that's something that's really important to you, if it's a callback to your childhood, which is wonderful. I love Nintendo growing up. Make sure that you book ahead of time so you can avoid disappointment, because that's really important. As for me, the main reason I went to Osaka was because I heard the food scene was fantastic. Like I said, I love food, and it's known as the kitchen of Japan, and I know so much fantastic street food flourishes in Osaka, so that was the main reason I went, and I had an amazing time, and I highly recommend you check it out with 3 weeks in Japan. Like I said, I know this itinerary isn't exactly original, like everybody goes to Tokyo, to Kyoto, to Osaka, but it was my first trip to Japan, so you know what? I wanted to see the big cities, and if it's your first trip to Japan, you really can't go wrong following the tourist trail, I promise. In Osaka, I obviously ate very well. I did treat myself to a Michelin star meal, which was super cool. And I did enjoy the street food as well. I did a lot of fun shopping. I went to Team Lab's Botanical Garden, which was beautiful. And I also did a super cool back alleys tour where I learned all about the history of Osaka, did some karaoke after that. It was great. And it's just a really fun, lively city. Now, I will say, if you're expecting it to be old Japan, don't go in there with that mindset. Osaka is very, very modern and a lot of fun with a ton of lights, and it's a great time. It's really brilliant. And if you like spas, be sure to check out Spa World. Unfortunately, I did not go because I have visible tattoos. So I was, I wouldn't be allowed in. But if you have no tattoos, Spa World, I hear, is a lot of fun and something that you can add to your itinerary of Osaka. It really is a great city. In Osaka, obviously I had to make some room to go to Nara and see the deer. Obviously they're super sweet. I'm sure you've seen the deer all over YouTube and Instagram, and it's one of the reasons people go to Nara, but also to see some incredible temples as well. And it really is an easy and fast day trip from Osaka and was well worth the experience. So if you have time to add Nara to your itinerary, definitely do that. Like some of the other destinations that I've mentioned here, it's easy to get around Nara. You can walk between the sites. It's no problem whatsoever. And yeah, it's well worth it just for the rich history that can be discovered here. So make a day of it. And if you want to dive even deeper, spend the night. Why not? Those were my 3 weeks in Japan. Like I said, I pretty much stuck with the tourist trail. I saw a lot of the most iconic cities like Tokyo, Kyoto, and Osaka, and I just loved every minute when I was there. Each day felt like a new adventure, and I miss Japan a lot. I really do want to go back, and I'm hoping to go back again in the summer of 2026. Now, I know that summer is not ideal weather-wise, but as a teacher, I like having the extra time to go, and I did okay with the end of June into early July. The real heat didn't quite hit yet, so I was fine. But anyway, if you have any recommendations for what I should see on my second trip to Japan, or if you have any questions about my solo trip to Japan, feel free to reach out, leave a comment, check out my blog. I have a ton of Japan blog posts, and I can't thank you guys enough for sticking with me. Learning YouTube has been somewhat of a learning curve. Hopefully these videos are getting a little better. I'm slowly learning editing. Having a mic helps, obviously, but yeah. So thanks again, and I wish you all happy travels. That glare behind me is really annoying. Sorry about that. I really need a really cool backdrop to film these videos. Maybe like a big map in the background or something like that. Without like annoying lights from the outside of my apartment, that'd be pretty cool. So anyway, hope you have fun in Japan. It's a wonderful place, whether you're going solo or you're going with friends or family. Highly recommend it. You'll have a great time. And yeah, if you have any suggestions for me for my second trip to Japan, because it will happen 2026, I'm marking my calendar, feel free to drop those suggestions in the comments. And I'll see you all in the next one. Take care. Safe travels.